Individualism versus collectivism. Who gets to be the center of the story? You or the group? You think you are an individual, or you think you are part of something bigger? Either way, you are probably wrong in one direction and blind in the other. Individualism and collectivism are not just cultural labels. They are psychological operating systems. They determine where your sense of self begins and ends. Do you exist primarily as an independent agent with personal goals? Or a node in a network of relationships, obligations, and shared identity? The answer feels obvious until you change countries. Then you realize that what felt like common sense was conditioning. The mechanism, where the self lives. In highly individualist societies, the self is internal. I am who I am, my goals, my growth, my happiness. Autonomy is sacred. Independence is maturity. Standing apart is strength. In collectivist societies, the self is relational. I am someone's child. I belong to this group. My decisions affect others. Harmony is maturity. Loyalty is virtue. Standing apart can be destabilizing. These differences shape how you make decisions, how you define success, how you handle conflict, how you experience guilt, how you experience pride, how you attach in relationships. This is not abstract sociology. It is nervous system wiring. The data isn't East versus West anymore. Older cultural models framed individualism versus collectivism as a clean East-West divide. The United States, individualist. China and Japan, collectivist. Case closed. But updated Hofstede-Minkoff data, 2023 to 2025, reveals something more complex. It shows gradients, shifts, generational differences, and north-south variations within continents. Youth in Japan shows stronger individualist tendencies than previous generations. Urban China reflects hybrid patterns. Competitive individuals striving within collective loyalty frameworks. Australia ranks high in individualism, but with egalitarian moderation. The United States remains near the top of global individualism metrics. But individualism and collectivism are not binaries. They are spectra. And each spectrum position produces both strengths and liabilities. Let's examine them. The United States, the Selfist Project. If there is a modern case study in individualism, it is the United States. Historically scoring around 91 on Hofstede's individualism scale, the US cultural narrative is unapologetically self-driven. Be yourself. Follow your dreams. Reinvent yourself. Pull yourself up. Personal branding is normalized. Therapy is normalized. Self-expression is currency. This produces extraordinary innovation. Entrepreneurship thrives in individualist environments because deviation is not punished by default. Failure is reframed as learning. Individualism wires confidence in autonomy. But here's the shadow. When the self is central, responsibility is centralized too. If you fail, it is your fault. If you struggle, it is your burden. If you feel lonely, it is your problem to fix. Individualism can produce isolation masked as freedom. High autonomy can correlate with weaker communal buffers. Loneliness rates in highly individualist societies often exceed those in collectivist societies. The nervous system in individualist contexts learns. You are on your own. This can produce resilience. It can also produce emotional exhaustion. China, the self as node. China presents a different psychological architecture. While modernization has introduced competitive individualist elements, collectivist orientation remains strong, particularly in intergenerational loyalty and social harmony. Historically scoring around 20 to 33 in individualism metrics, Chinese culture emphasizes relational identity. Family obligation is non-negotiable. Social harmony is valued over personal confrontation. This produces strong communal cohesion. Group loyalty can buffer stress. Interdependence reduces isolation. In collectivist contexts, identity is shared. But here is the tension. When harmony is prioritized, dissent becomes costly. Open disagreement risks relational fracture. Individual preference may be subordinated to collective stability. The nervous system learns. Belonging is safety, but belonging may require restraint. Suppressed dissent can create internal conflict. Harmony can mask silent resentment. Collectivism protects. It also constrains. Australia, independence with a fair go. Australia ranks high in individualism, often close to the United States, but with a distinctly egalitarian twist. Autonomy is valued, but overt elitism is socially corrected. The fair go narrative promotes equality. Tall poppy syndrome subtly discourages visible superiority. This creates an interesting hybrid. You are encouraged to be independent, but not too proud. Success is acceptable, but not arrogance. This moderates extreme individualism. It also creates subtle conformity pressure. If you stand too far above, social friction follows. The nervous system learns, be capable, be independent, but stay grounded. This fosters social cohesion without heavy hierarchy. But it may also dampen overt ambition in some contexts. Japan, harmony in transition. Japan historically leaned collectivist, emphasizing group harmony, consensus, and institutional loyalty. However, recent generational shifts show increased individualist tendencies among younger populations. Urban youth increasingly prioritize personal fulfillment over lifelong corporate loyalty. Japan sits in an interesting middle space. Collective norms remain strong. Respect for group harmony, reluctance to disrupt order. But individual aspirations are rising. This creates internal tension. The nervous system learns dual scripts. Be harmonious, but also pursue personal meaning. Balancing these can produce psychological complexity. Harmony fosters efficiency. Restraint fosters social stability. But emotional suppression can lead to internalized stress. Japan's case reminds us, national imprints evolve. Strengths and blind spots. Individualism produces innovation, personal accountability, expressive freedom, entrepreneurial courage, but also isolation, self-blame, competitive anxiety. Weak communal buffering. Collectivism produces social cohesion, shared responsibility, loyalty, relational identity, but also conformity pressure, suppressed dissent, role entrapment. Fear of standing apart. Neither system is superior. Both are adaptive responses to historical and economic realities. The problem arises when one script dominates unconsciously. Attachment implications. Attachment styles are influenced by early caregiving, but caregiving is influenced by culture. In collectivist societies, children often grow up embedded in extended family networks. Multiple caregivers may provide consistent presence. This can promote secure attachment through relational density. However, emotional restraint norms may limit explicit expression of affection. In individualist societies, nuclear family structures dominate. Independence is encouraged early. Children may develop strong autonomy, sometimes leaning toward avoidant attachment if emotional self-sufficiency is overemphasized. Research suggests attachment distributions vary by culture, though core needs remain universal. Collectivist contexts may foster interdependent, secure bonds. Individualist contexts may foster autonomous, secure bonds. But extremes, in either direction, increase risk of insecurity. Too much autonomy without support becomes detachment. Too much conformity without expression becomes suppression. Balance produces resilience. Leadership implications. Individualist cultures reward assertive leadership. Entrepreneurs, disruptors, outspoken reformers thrive. Collectivist cultures often favor consensus-based leadership. Harmony, negotiation, and relational management matter more than individual charisma. Neither model is universally effective. In volatile, innovation-driven economies, assertiveness accelerates change. In socially dense systems, consensus prevents fracture. The leadership style you instinctively prefer may not be personality. It may be imprint, identity formation. In individualist societies, identity is often self-authored. What do I want? What fulfills me? In collectivist societies, identity is relational. What is my role? How does this affect my family? Individualist identity crises often revolve around meaning. Collectivist identity crises often revolve around role conflict. Migration between these systems amplifies tension. Someone raised collectivist entering an individualist society may feel unanchored. Someone raised individualist entering a collectivist society may feel constrained. Neither is wrong. Both are recalibrations of the self. The decision-making audit, to understand where you sit on this spectrum, complete this exercise. List 5 recent decisions: a career choice, a relationship choice, a financial decision, a social boundary, a personal goal. For each decision, score from 1 to 10. 1 equals purely self-driven, 10 equals primarily group-driven. Then ask, was that balance intentional or automatic? Which decisions felt heavy with obligation? Which felt free but isolating? Patterns reveal imprint. When individualism meets collectivism. In globalized societies, many people carry hybrid imprints. You may value autonomy in career but deference in family. You may embrace self-expression socially but avoid conflict at home. Hybrid identity is not confusion. It is complexity. The danger lies in unconscious loyalty to one script. The power lies in choosing balance. The provocative truth. You are not as independent as you think. And you are not as constrained as you fear. Individualism without community breeds loneliness. Collectivism without autonomy breeds resentment. If you were raised to prioritize yourself, you may need to relearn interdependence. If you were raised to prioritize the group, you may need to practice self-definition. Neither is betrayal. Both are expansion. Final reflection. Ask yourself, when I say I, how much of that is culturally scripted? When I say we, how much of that is fear of exclusion? Individualism and collectivism are not moral categories. They are survival architectures. Understanding them is not about judging nations. It is about reclaiming choice. In the next chapter, we move from self-definition to security, examining how scarcity and stability shape ambition, risk tolerance, and anxiety. Because where the self lives is only the beginning. What the self fears comes next.